Do you foresee there actually being this hex standard where countries are using it and corporations are using it, and then essentially it's decentralizing the Federal Reserve?
Correct. Yeah. So I think Hex is going to shock a lot of people because, the reality is that a lot of people don't understand what Hex is, right? And that's really in large in part because they don't understand the financial system that exists as a whole. And in reality, that's no fault of their own, right? Everybody can't be in the same position. So, excuse me. The reality is that Hex gives you so much optionality that once these institutions and governments discover it, they're going to be shocked by it, right? Because it's going to literally replace every facet of every money market that they use today in order to fund their operations, right? And then it begs the question, well, then what's the point of these middlemen any longer, right? And that's the whole thing. It's like, well, what point do they play? And that's the thing. Once you remove the power out of their hands, well, then things change, right? And that's kind of what people don't realize. People don't realize that they actually have the power, because even though the fiat isn't theirs, right, the value within those fiat is theirs. They just have to realize where they have to put the value in order to actually maintain it. And that's the hard part, right? Because we're not taught anything in terms of financial literacy as far as basic goes, at all. So this is why, the information I try to relay, while my streams do run rather long, they run rather long for a reason. And that's because the topics are very comprehensive, right? You need to know a little bit of a lot. And this is why I kind of run through a little gamut of information during my streams, because, there's so many deficits that we have to run through, right, in order to just get to a very base level to understand the topic at hand. And I mean, to me, while things can be no-brainers, right, to most people, they're not going to know 2 or 3 out of the 5 or 6 topics we're going to have to cover in order to understand why Hex is the thing, right? Because Hex covers so many facets just because of the optionality, right? Like you can stake from 1 day all the way out to 5,555 days. That's 15.2 years approximately. So you have this crazy optionality, right? And you can literally, I'm sorry for the background noise.
It's all good.
But you can literally just sit back, let the market do what it's going to do, and you don't have to think about it, right? And once people see how X works over time, because most people are going to assume this to be something regular, like a regular market, because they're not used to actual cryptocurrency, right? Like even the definition of cryptocurrency has been hijacked over the past 10 years because people are under this assumption that Bitcoin is decentralized, and the sad reality is that it no longer is. 2/3 of the volume passes through centralized exchanges, and that is not the definition of a decentralized financial instrument, which is what cryptocurrency is actually supposed to be. But we're not gonna pick at I's and cross the T's and all that good stuff. We're just gonna keep it, playing. But at the end of the day, cryptocurrency was made to remove the middlemen, because the middlemen are the problem. And in Hex, you get to be the front of the line as long as you interact with the protocol. And that's why it's so powerful, because as long as you can afford that base value proposition, which is called the T-sharing Hex. Jesus, I'm sorry. I live in New York, so it's crazy out here. Once you can afford that value proposition, Hex, you then can earn that payout that the system yields, right, on a daily basis, which is a payout per T-share. And the T-share is just a number of shares that you acquire from the system, which happens to be 1 trillion, hence the T. And that T-share allots you 5.75 hex per evening, right? And the payout happens every night Eastern Standard Time at 8 p.m. But the actual time is 0000 GMT, because it goes by the UTC clock in the code. So at some points in the year, it'll be 8 p.m. Eastern Standard, and other points it'll be 7 p.m. So you have to be aware of that. But long story short, you get this consistent payout, right? Every day. You can bank on that, right? Because it's code that works 100% of the time. And there is nothing else out there that works 100% of the time. Not even Google, not Facebook, not anything, right? Amazon, nothing works 100% of the time. So, you know, that level of consistency doesn't exist in any market, especially with respect to yield earning, right? Because yield earning is usually variable in most instances.